Jiang Wenzhu crossed the river and became the unlucky one in the koi farming story. She defeated her twin brothers at birth and was forcibly sent away by the patriarchal mistress who prioritized boys over girls. Just as he left the wolf's den, he entered the tiger's den. Drifting and wandering, day and night are uncertain. Jiang Wenzhu, who was still a baby, was deeply depressed. She pinched her handkerchief and cried, "Help the child, we can't live these days anymore." Golden finger. Not afraid, we have space, even if the space is only 1 cubic meter. Friend. Don't be afraid. When you grow up, let's escape from war, build a fleet, make wine and farm, and get rich together. Qin Shubai. Don't be afraid, find a good husband who has a personality, a story, skills, and dotes on you like fate. For example, I will surely have a peaceful life. Jiang Wenzhu. Hehe, those surnamed Qin, who are you trying to coax? Qin Shubai. To be honest, I won't coax you. Keywords of the novel. Shoufu Jiaoniang has space without pop-ups, Shoufu Jiaoniang has space. Download the complete collection of TXT, Shoufu Jiaoniang has space. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. 001 Fish Basket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1001 Fish Basket. Under the scorching sun, the women in Xinghua village finished washing their clothes early and went home. There was only one woman with a big belly busy by the river. Lin helped her waist wring out the last piece of clothing, put it in the basket, and struggled upwards from the knee-high river. Due to pregnancy, her movements were very slow and her belly was unusually large. It didn't look like she was 8 months old at all, but rather like she was about to give birth. Lin carefully bent down and took down the fish basket, surprised to see a small half basket of fish and shrimp inside. Tonight we can have an extra meal, and a few children at home may be able to enjoy some soup. Lin couldn't help but curl his lips. I have given birth to 3 girls in a row. If I still give birth to girls this time, let me deal with you. Go wash your clothes in the river, and there is still a month left before giving birth. What's so delicate? Even on the day of giving birth, I have to finish all the household chores, I'm too lazy for you. Thinking of her mother-in-law's words, Lin's lips drooped. Who made her give birth to 3 daughters in a row, unable to stand up straight? The experienced midwife in the village, Ma Shi, said that her pregnancy was not good and she was also a daughter. Her mother-in-law was extremely angry and couldn't stand her anymore. She left all the work at home and abroad to her, treating her as a donkey envoy. This morning, after scolding her, my mother-in-law went to the town to worship Buddha and asked the Bodhisattva to add a male child to their Jiang family. Does she not want to have a son, but only a daughter? What can she do? Lin placed the fish basket at the bottom of the backpack, covered it with a wooden basin, and walked home step by step. Halfway through, I ran into my neighbor's son who was weeding and returning. Son put down her hoe and said, "First of all, brave daughter-in-law. On such a big day, you have a big belly. How can you go wash clothes? Your mother-in-law is really going to give birth, and she's not afraid of tiring you. What should we do if something happens?" Sun Shi saw her stomach tremble, afraid that her stomach would fall off. "Come on, I'll carry it for you. You're good to leave. I really don't know what I'm thinking, but treating my wife like this doesn't mean I'm not afraid of causing trouble." After finishing speaking, she took Lin's backpack and quickly declined, saying, "Auntie, no need. I'll walk slowly, don't trouble you." Sun waved her hand and, disregarding her opposition, directly lifted her backpack to help carry it. "It's not a problem, what's the value of the neighbor next door? It should be." Not long after the two of them had left, a child wearing a blue patched short jacket, with a sky cannon on his head and eye droppings hanging from his eyes ran over, crying and shouting at Sun Shi with a runny nose and tears. "Milk, Grandpa fell into the field and broke his bone. Dad asked me to call you home. Sun was startled, her hazy eyes fixed on her grandson, and her voice split. What are you talking about? What's wrong with your grandfather? Let's go home. After finishing speaking, she hurriedly untied her backpack and followed her grandson with a cigarette. Sun was extremely anxious and didn't even have time to say hello to Lin. Lin looked at her back with concern as she was about to carry the basket when her sister-in-law, Jiang Wenzhu, who was holding a handkerchief, walked towards her. Wenzhu, you go home. Jiang Wenzhu walked over without looking at her, not knowing if it was intentional. As she passed by the Lin family, she kicked the basket over her back and quickly moved forward. Lin knew she was angry, so he probably got angry again in Xinhua and came to take her as a scapegoat to vent his anger. All the clothes in the wooden basin were spilled, and all the small fish and shrimp in the fish basket were also spilled. Lin didn't care about anything else and was about to bend down to pick it up. A group of children suddenly rushed over, cheering and jumping around her happily. There's fish. There's shrimp. Come and pick it up. The children rushed forward with incredible speed. Lin was about to stop when a certain bear child rushed over and collided with her. Lin stumbled and fell in pain, unable to speak. There was a burst of pain under her body, and she couldn't help but sob and sit on the ground, sweating profusely. Run quickly, she has fallen. The bear children were frightened by Lin's appearance and threw down the things in their hands to run away. Mom, what's wrong with you? 6-year-old Daya carried a basket of firewood, followed by 4-year-old Arya and 2-year-old Sonia. A few girls ran towards the Lin family. Lin struggled to get up and took Daya's backpack. Daya, take your clothes to the river for a rinse. Arya picked up the fish and shrimp and put them in the basket. Follow Daya to the river, be careful not to fall into the river. Sanya and her mother will go back. Arya quickly agreed, picked up clothes, fish and shrimp on the ground with nimble hands and feet, and went to the riverbank. Lin led Sanya slowly back. As soon as the two of them entered the yard and put down the pigsty, a chubby and thick figure walked towards the entrance of the yard, which was Zhang, Lin's mother-in-law. Zhang's face was very ugly, obviously the sign requested by the temple was not good. Lin didn't want to get moldy and walked slowly towards the door. He wanted to go out and pick up the big girl, but was stopped by Zhang and said, Lin, where are you going? No one is shouting, my eyes are sticky. Mom, I'll go pick up the area. Zhang rolled her eyes in dissatisfaction and said, what should I take? The girl's film is a loss for money. Glancing at the pig grass in his eyes, he said angrily, helping Daya work again. She doesn't have any hands on her own. Didn't she let you do the laundry? Lin explained in a low voice, I just fell. Daya went to the river to wash clothes. I guess she will come back now. Zhang sneered and snorted coldly, you're really remarkable. With such a big person, it's useless to even wrestle on the ground. No wonder you've given birth to a bunch of losers. Speaking of this, Zhang became angry. Today when he went to town, the master in the temple said that they could only add one daughter to their family this time, so that she could do more good deeds and accumulate virtue in her daily life. Pooh, my Jiang family has been unlucky for 8 lifetimes before marrying such an unlucky and useless thing like you. Zhang spat fiercely, and the least virtuous thing she did was marry such a poor wife to the Jiang family. Lin felt a pang of discomfort in her stomach and stood at the door, covering her stomach. When she didn't hear Zhang's words, she was used to listening to them. Although it was very hurtful, she could still learn not to take them to heart. Woo woo woo, the cries of Daya and Arya came from a long distance, from far to near, both loud and sharp. What are you crying about, mourning? It's unlucky. I've been eating and not working all day, and I've been picking up firewood all day. It's only because of you that I can't find any boys at home. If I cry again, I'll sew your mouths together. Zhang shouted loudly, shouting and scolding, covering his head and face. Arya immediately stopped speaking, tears swirling in her eyes. Lin felt heartbroken as she took the basket from Daya's hand and said, "Hurry in, where's the fish basket?" Arya trembled and lowered her head, her voice trembling as she said, "Mom, the fish and shrimp are gone and washed away by the water. I didn't expect them to run so fast when they were put in the water. Just now, Cat Egg and Dog Egg wanted to grab my fish basket, but my sister and I couldn't fight it, so we cried." Jiang jumped up and slapped Arya, saying, "What can't we do? You're so stupid. Even if you take a fish basket, you can let go of the fish and shrimp. If you break your hand, you'll just have a mouth to eat white rice. What should we eat tonight without the fish and shrimp?" Her old man's eldest son, second son, and third daughter are all waiting for the meat and vegetables to be cooked, finally having a fish and shrimp bite festival. How dare this damn girl film run away? Why didn't she put her head away? The more she thought, the more angry she became. Jiang raised her hand and wanted to hit Arya a few more times. Lin sure saw something wrong and quickly stood in front of Arya to protect her daughter, saying, "Mother, Arya is still young and she can't hold the fish basket. It's all my fault." "Of course it's your fault." Jiang slapped Lin and his thick palm used force. "Hurry up and cook. I want to starve my mother. I've never seen such an unfilial and lazy daughter. Law like you." Jiang Sufan, who was embroidering flowers in the room, walked out and added, "It's just my mother. Sister-in-law, you've dealt with this whole thing, and you've lost the good things. She also wants to steal some fish and shrimp to give to the Tongxing Xinghua in the east of the village. It's hard to say that Xinghua thinks she's virtuous and willing to marry her. Who is Happy Country? The only scholar in the village. He is handsome, knows how to read, has strong abilities, and comes from a decent family. He is a reliable son. Law. If we make a list of the men that all the girls in Xinghua village want to marry the most, Happy Country definitely ranks among the top. Mom, I don't care. If you ask my sister. Law to make me a basket of fish and shrimp, I'll eat them." Jiang Sufan hugged Zhang's arm and acted coquettishly. Zhang enjoyed her daughter's intimacy with her and doted on her nose, nodding, "Okay. Lin, did you hear me? After finishing dinner, bring back a basket of fish and shrimp." Lin's obedience led the three maids back. At this moment, a chubby young man rushed home, shouting as he ran, "Mom, some bad guy hit me, you help me hit him." The person who came was Jiang Xianfei, the second son of the Zhang family, who was only 3 years old and had dementia. The new book has been signed and will be launched on Qidian Girls Network. You can try investing for free. Seeking collection and recommendation, everyone supports one first. I love you, Momoda. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. 002 Twins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2002 Twins. Jiang Xianfei's face is the same as Mantu. He is white, fat and swollen. His mouth has saliva. His clothes are covered with mud and water stains. He holds a delicate bamboo cage with a dusty sparrow inside. Your second fool robbed the sparrow I caught. I asked him to return it, but he didn't. My grandfather is still lying in bed, waiting for something good to heal himself. How could he steal my things? You asked him to return me. The person who came was the grandson of the neighboring Sun family, De Zhu. Zhang sneered, "You're the second fool. You say it's yours, it's yours. The sparrow in our hands will fly first." She couldn't hear anyone say that her second son was a fool anymore. Whoever said he was angry with, the truth was on her side, and it was useless for anyone to say anything. De Zhu was stunned and said, "You. Why are you unreasonable? Grandpa, take a look at your grandmother." Lin's father. Law Jiang Dafu and husband Jiang Xianyong are both bamboo mills. The father and son are weaving mats at home, like invisible people, silently. When the father and son have work to do, they work at home. If they don't have work, they go to the county dock to move and resist resistance. During the busy farming days, they also go to the countryside, but they never get involved in household chores. Being called to someone, Jiang Dafu raised his head and glanced at Jiang Shi, then turned his face away from Jiang Xianfei's silly face and said, "Give back the things to him." Jiang Dafu doesn't like his second son, he's a fool. He's often laughed at in the village because he lacks virtue to give birth to a foolish son. Therefore, he never cared about the matter of his second son and kept his eyes clean. Jiang reluctantly glanced at Jiang Dafu and saw his disdainful expression. He wanted to get angry but didn't dare to. He had no choice but to quickly take a sparrow from Jiang Xianfei's hand and throw it to Dezhu, saying, "Go, go, go." Dezhu caught the sparrow and ran away. Jiang Xianfei saw the sparrow being taken away, and suddenly became restless. He didn't know which nerve he had touched, but he lost control and rolled on the ground without any regard. "Mom, I want birds, I want birds, I want birds." The massive body rolled back and forth on the ground, carrying a huge cloud of dust. Jiang Xianfei rolled and got up, and a tiger pounced on Jiang's arm, shaking it vigorously. "Mother, my little bird, you give me back my little bird," he said. He remembers that his mother took the little girl just now, just ask her for it. Jiang was so entangled that she pointed to Lin and said, "Your sister-in-law took the bird. Follow her to get it." Lin sure. "I didn't take it, I didn't, mother, I didn't have sparrows." Lin quickly denied it. She can't be relied on. She knows Jiang Xianfei won't stop until he gets the sparrow today. Where can she find him? But can she reason with a lunatic? Jiang Xianfei's tiger pounced on the Lin family, and his small mountain-like body quickly rushed towards them. Lin dodged several times, but finally couldn't escape. He was vigorously pushed by Jiang Xianfei, and stumbled to the ground. It hurts." Lin's face immediately turned white, and blood oozed from under her body. Mother's bleeding." Everyone burst into tears around Lin. "Dad, come and see Mom's bleeding," Ye shouted. Jiang Xianyong saw that his daughter-in-law's situation was not good, and finally stopped his work. He quickly ran over to help him up and said, "What's wrong with your daughter-in-law?" Lin's cold sweat broke out and he opened his mouth, "I'm afraid we're going to have a baby." Jiang Xianyong was startled and turned to look at Jiang, saying, "Mother, my wife is going to have a baby and we need to hire a midwife. Please go and call Aunt Ma." "What's her name, Ma Antier?" "Ma Antier, she doesn't want any money." "Ma Antier should spend at least 100 big coins. What kind of gold dignitary, giving birth to girls and movies? Is she worthy?" After all, it was his own daughter-in-law, and Jiang Xianyong couldn't bear to see it. "Mother, go ahead, what if it's his son? The great monk has already said it's his daughter. The great monk may have made a mistake. There's no need to waste money. Is it easy for you two to earn money? There's a lot of money." Jiang disagrees, asking her to give Lin money is impossible. "I want money, I want money, I want money to buy meat," Jiang Xianfei kept making a fuss on the side. Jiang's headache was caused by the noise. Turning his eyes, he flew towards Jiang Xian and said, Bao, let's go. Mom will buy you meat to eat." Okay, eating meat is my favorite." Jiang Xianfei clapped his hands and happily followed Jiang's footsteps, bouncing and jumping. The two of them moved quickly, and as they watched several meters outside, Jiang Xianyong was dumbfounded and said, "Mom, don't leave. What will my daughter-in-law do if you leave? The money at home is managed by the Zhang family. They usually ask for money from the Zhang family. When she goes out, where does the money come from? Mom, you can't leave." Jiang Xianyong wanted to come forward and pull people, but Jiang's movements were faster and he didn't touch the ground. Where could he see people? Ah! Lin let out a scream, her amniotic fluid burst, and her lower body was wet with blood, soaking her coarse cloth dress and feeling extremely embarrassed. Jiang Xianyong hesitated for a moment and picked up the person before entering the room. Be brave first, come out quickly. It's unlucky for a man to enter the delivery room. Our family shouldn't touch this mold, Jiang Dafu shouted inside. After shouting, he took out a bamboo strip to pick his teeth, showing indifference to Lin's situation. A woman giving birth is similar to a hen laying eggs, so there's nothing to worry about. Jiang Xianyong came out of the house and looked at the people in the courtyard. His mother had left, but his sister couldn't count on her. Big, 2, and 3 were too young to invite a midwife. What should Lin do? What if the great monk is not accurate and she gives birth to a son? This idea flashed through, and Jiang Xianyong finally made a decision. Tia, come in and see your mother. I'll go invite the midwife. After finishing speaking, he ran away, afraid of being nagged by Jiang Dafu. Sure enough, as soon as the other person ran away, Jiang Dafu frowned and raised his head, revealing himself deeply. It's a waste of money again. He thinks that Lin's baby must be a girl, what's good to invite? 101, he has to work alone for about 10 days. When there is still work to be done, there is no work to be done. How could it be so shameful? Dia walked quickly into the delivery room, and Arya and Sanya followed in. As soon as they entered, they asked the smell of blood. Lin was about to faint when she saw a few girls. Her eyes lit up and she said, Dia, go call your father and ask for help. Dia ran to her side, feeling helpless and said, Mom, Dad has gone to ask Aunt Ma to deliver you. Let me come in and see you. Lin breathed a sigh of relief. As long as she had a midwife, she could always make it through as long as she waited. These kids can't stay here, they're scared. Dia's face turned white, Arya was already trembling, and Sanya was not yet at the high threshold, almost crying. Lin's body was writhing with pain, and Xing suppressed it and gritted his teeth, saying, Dia, take your sisters to the kitchen to boil a pot of hot water. I'll use it later. Dia hesitated and said, Dad asked me to come in and see you. Where is that okay? Lin trembled and said, Go. Dia quickly hugged Sanya and left with Arya. As soon as the child left, Lin's stomach felt sagging and something was flowing out of it. The intense pain made her faint, and she vaguely heard 2 faint cries, like a cat. If it weren't for her proximity, she might have ignored them. This child's body is really weak, I don't know if it can be fed. Before fainting, Lin was extremely worried. She wanted to get up and take a look at the child, but she was too tired. I don't know how long it took, but Lin felt a huge pain on her face and body. Pop 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 pop, Ma kept shouting, first of all, wake up from the Yong family. You have given birth to a son, but unfortunately, like a cat, there is still one in your belly. You should put in more effort, but don't faint. If it's a twin son and the boy in your belly can't come out, he will be suffocated to death, you know. Give birth. Daughter-in-law, you're so good. There's still one in her belly. Jiang Xianyong shouted inside, holding the boy in his hand, his mouth cracking to the bottom of his ear. Lin also wanted to give birth well, but she couldn't give birth. She exhausted all her strength, but couldn't bear it. Ma Shi saw it and immediately shouted loudly, hurry up, bring something in for someone to eat. How can you make it when you're weak? Bring in 2 eggs. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 0031 Death, 1 Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 30031 Death, 1 Life, what kind of eggs are you taking? Losing money, 1 by 1, raw. You can eat eggs. Just give me some cold water, that's good. Zhang, who had sneaked in from outside, came in and heard Ma's voice, which made the boss unhappy. Why did you hire Ma Shi? Ma Shi didn't pay for it. The prodigal women are the stars of morning. Mother, my daughter.in-law has given birth to a baby boy with one in her belly. Aunt Ma called for an egg. Jiang Xianyong happily handed the child to Zhang. Zhang was stunned, took the swaddle and opened it. When she saw that it was really a boy, she finally pulled out a satisfied smile and said, wait. Zhang was quite generous this time, boiling 3 eggs and sending them in. Since there was still one inside, maybe it was also his son. For the sake of the son of the Lao Jiang family, I gave Lin a discount. Zhang went to see his grandson with a bumpy butt. As soon as he picked him up, he noticed that the child was lying limp and lacking energy, neither moving nor crying. The doll has just been born and it's normal to fall asleep, but why is its face purple? Zhang startled and reached out to touch the child's breathing. After a while, he felt the child exhale and said, "Old man, be brave first. The child is not doing well." Jiang Xianyong ran over and said, "What's wrong with the child? My face turned purple. Can't I catch my breath? Did you hear the child cry just now?" "No, not a single cry." Zhang's heart thumped and he had a bad premonition. This child is not doing well. Go get a doctor, go quickly. The boy who finally came can't just die like this. Hey, mother, I'm going right now. Jiang Xianyong responded and ran away. After just a few steps, he turned back and said, "Mom, I don't have any money. Can you give me some money?" Zhang felt a pang of heartache and hesitated without moving her feet. "Hurry up, the child is important," Jiang Dafu pouted. "Ignorant woman, I don't know the importance of the matter." Zhang quickly went into the house to flip through the money box, took out a hanging money, thought for a moment, and then took out another hanging. Looking at the doll on the Kong, I muttered to myself, I have a sick cat-like baby, and I don't know if I can support it. Poo, 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 poo. Having sent Jiang Xianyong to invite a doctor, Zhang looked at Lin's house and couldn't help but expect to have another son. Inside, Lin took Aunt Ma's hand and ate the eggs. After regaining some strength, she began giving birth. Wow, 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 a burst of crying came from the room. Lin was lying on the bed, feeling lethargic. The room was filled with a bloody smell that seeped through. Ma Shi quickly helped cut the umbilical cord and gave Lin a simple wipe. Born. Ma, is it a boy or a girl? Zhang stood at the door holding the baby and asked. Ma paused and hugged the bloody newborn, then exclaimed in a loud voice, "Girl." Zhang's face collapsed and he lifted his foot back, saying, "Pooh, you're another loser." My subordinates instinctively hugged the boy in their arms, and saw that the baby in their arms was breathing rapidly, with a face turning blue and purple, and even slightly blackened. The doll struggled to clench its fist, trembling all over, and then it didn't move. Zhang's face changed greatly and he said, "Old man, come here quickly, the doll won't move." The doll in the swaddle still carries heat, but the movement is not good at first glance. Jiang Dafu came up to the first mock examination, his heart was cold, and his eyebrows were tight. Zhang touched the doll's nose to make sure it was dead, lost in thought, and then suddenly threw the swaddle onto the ground, cursing loudly at Lin's room. "Lin, you are a tragic star and troublemaker who has been beaten 1,000 times. You shouldn't have married into our Jiang family. You are a disaster of poor fortune, and you have given birth to 3 losers in a row. After finally giving birth to a son, it's still a stillborn child. You have no son's life in this lifetime. If I had known this, I wouldn't have begged you to be your daughter.in-law. You occupy the pit and don't poop. What you lay are all soft shell eggs, bah." Son, who was next door, heard the deafening commotion here and looked at old Zhou lying in bed, sighing, "Zhang is starting to make trouble again. Poor Lin, there will be plenty of hardships in the future." Zhou snorted and said, "Who is Jiang?" "The first day you met her." "Sun Sure. I just know you too well. I'm getting tired of listening every day, and I'm afraid it's going to cause a huge uproar." Sun sympathized with Lin very much, but since Lin couldn't give birth to a son, she was destined to be bullied and couldn't stand up straight in the Jiang family. People like Jiang were not easy to get along with. And there is some commotion. Sure enough, the next door was filled with curses. "Jiang Posey, what's wrong with you? Your son came to invite me, and I kindly helped your daughter-in-law deliver the baby. When you didn't pay, what do you mean? You want to go for free? Dream." Originally, Ma asked Jiang for money after giving birth, but Jiang refused, and the two started arguing. "Who did I hire you? Who hired you? Who can find me? Are you afraid you're losing your head? If you want to take my money, why don't you look in the mirror? Are you the person with a head and face?" Jiang Shi stood still, lifting her head and holding her nose at someone. Ma Shi was so angry that she tilted back, her face trembling with flesh, and her thick lips tightly pursed, almost biting off a piece of meat. "Jiang Posey, don't bother and pester me. I have face and no face, but I act with conscience. Your son came to ask me to give birth to your daughter-in-law, and if I do good deeds, you don't give me money. To put it bluntly, the heavens don't have this reason. If you don't give money, we'll go to the village chief's house to judge and judge. I want to see if you can escape. Oh my goodness, you can't break your heart. A bad-hearted person cannot give birth to a son, and if they want to give birth, they will also be foolish sons and dead grandsons." Ma Shi was not polite at all. She saw clearly that Jiang Shi was a generous person. If she didn't do her own business in the future, she wouldn't even talk about lifting a sedan chair. "What are you saying? Jiang was stabbed in pain, she gave birth to a silly son herself, and now she has a dead grandson. But how could someone else poke her spine like this?" Zhang's eyes turned red, and her plump body twisted against Ma's. The two of them have equal strength and are not willing to compromise. "You tear off my hair, and I tear apart your face. Beat and curse at the same time, using all the strength to suck and pinch." In the courtyard, chickens and dogs were flying and dogs were jumping, and the movements of the two women were no less than those of an army. Jiang Dafu had a black face and an iron-blue complexion. He was infuriated by Ma's words. Although he had been pointed at behind the back by the villagers for many years, and there were also many people who spoke in person, it was rare for him to say something so unpleasant, which was heart-wrenching. Jiang Dafu complained in his heart. "Jiang is the same, why not give money? Just like Ma said, when the village chief comes, can he run away? It's a shame, stupid woman. Stop it, what does it look like?" Jiang Dafu's words caused the two to pause for a moment, and then they continued to tear apart as if they had not heard each other. Their posture seemed as if the other was their life and death enemies. Upon hearing the commotion outside, Lin knew that she had given birth to a baby boy, who was a stillborn child. She was in a state of rapid anger and fainted instantly. She is too tired today. She has encountered so many things that not only her body cannot bear it, but also her mind has been hit by such a blow. It's really unbearable. The little doll lying next to her was dumbfounded. Mud embryo house, thatched roof, home on all sides, the woman giving birth to a child fainted, her blood lingering, and she became a little doll. She has traveled through, is she wearing a tire? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. 004 Premium. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004 Premium. The little doll Jiang Wenzhu in the room stared at her with round eyes and called out, twice, realizing that no one was paying attention to her. She blinked and shed a few drops of physiological tears. Jiang Wenzhu closed her mouth, her eyes blurry. She just won a lawsuit and received 1 million yuan. She went home in a good mood and only walked out of the garage when she was stabbed by a violent man in black with a knife. When she was on the brink of death, she saw clearly that the man was her plaintiff in the fight against the government, and it was all her fault for her strong professional ability that she encountered a change of losing the lawsuit. A great young man and fashionable beauty, unfortunately passed away young. Why is she so unlucky? Jiang Wenzhu wiped her eyes in a daze, but before she could feel sad, a commotion came from her ear, and the screams and curses from the yard drifted straight into the room. My ears are going to fall off. Ma sure, let go, let go. Zhang felt that her ears were about to fall off, and she couldn't bear to beg for mercy, but she couldn't lower her face and said soft words. Then let go first and don't pull my hair. Ma also made a request. When she doesn't know Zhang's donkey temper. She wants to let go, Zhang will definitely take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of the situation. It's better to take advantage of it first, and then it will suffer. Ma's subordinates will increase their gravity. Ma sure, are you using yin moves? You really think I'm afraid of you? Pooh, who knows who's afraid? Is it possible that I'm also afraid of you, a chubby winter melon? Who in Xinhua village doesn't know that you only know how to eat, not even a few years old doll? Zhang became angry with embarrassment and sneered at each other, saying, I have good luck, unlike you who have a low life. Your jealousy is useless, let go. Saying to let go, the two of them made a concerted effort and screamed in agony before letting go. Ma worked all year round, although she couldn't compare to Zhang in terms of body size, she was sturdy and strong, firmly holding the upper hand. Riding on Zhang's belly, she slapped her face with a slap, making Zhang's eyes sparkle with gold stars. Zhang couldn't help but shout into the room, Sufan, come and help your mother has been beaten. Jiang Sufan, who embroidered in the room, remained motionless, not that she had been beaten. She is going to marry a young lady from happy country, and her status is not comparable to that of an ordinary village woman. How can she fight? Happy country is about to meet, and she will definitely say that she is disrespectful and refined. What if she has a bad impression? Sufan, Ma sure has taken the money, so your dowry will be reduced. Come on. Zhang Shi shouted. Jiang Sufan stood still, it was related to her dowry, and she must not give up. After hesitating, Jiang Sufan grabbed a needle and walked out. She picked up the rolling pin at the door and saw Ma riding on Zhang's body. Her palm, which was as big as a fan, arched from left to right, beating and cursing, with a fierce and terrifying expression on her face. Is this enough to fight? Jiang Sufan took a deep breath and, for the dowry, her eyes closed and she rushed up without caring, pounding down with a rolling pin. I'll make you beat my mother, I'll make you snatch my dowry money. You crazy woman, I'll beat you to death. Ma sure was confused. Jiang Sufan's sudden attack was merciless and really made her suffer twice. But Ma sure, who was very clever, saw Jiang Sufan with her eyes closed and quickly dodged Zhang Shi, rolling aside. Ao, Sufan, don't hit your mother, hit Ma sure. Zhang was beaten and shouted loudly, you've bruised me all over. No, it's swollen. My daughter, oh, you hit the wrong person. You can see clearly before you start. Poochie. Ma sure laughed out loud. Jiang Sufan widened her eyes in disbelief and caught a glimpse of Ma sure's expression as she laughed and watched the show, feeling extremely embarrassed and angry. Ma sure suppressed a smile and considered her kindly, Sufan, it's unfilial for you to hit your mother so hard. If this were to be known, your reputation would be ruined, and you could still talk about a good family. You. Jiang Sufan's scalp tingled and she gritted her teeth. You framed me. Jiang Sufan was extremely scared. Ma sure's big mouth was really impressive when it came to arranging people, but he must not let happy country know. Ma sneered, I framed you. Your mother and daughter all went to battle and bullied me. You're such a wicked little girl who hasn't even married yet. No wonder they're happy to kill you and don't want you. I dare to see your true face earlier. You can't even compare to other girls. I'm fighting with you. Jiang Sufan's mind became hot, feeling that she had been wronged to death. From childhood to adulthood, she had never experienced such injustice. Upon seeing this, Jiang was afraid that his daughter would suffer losses and rushed forward. The three of them immediately formed a group, and the situation escalated once again. Jiang Dafu and Jiang Xianyong said goodbye and felt embarrassed. They couldn't beat each other in a fight. Should their men go to fight each other? Even the spittle stars in the village can drown people. Jiang Wenzhu in the room looked out with lifeless eyes, her mind in a mess. Did she wear a book? At first, she listened to the shouting in the yard and couldn't figure out the situation, but as she listened, she suddenly realized that these names were particularly familiar. Jiang Sufan, Zhang Shi, Ma Shi. She wore a eunuch's essay called The Little Blessed Woman of the Farmhouse. Happy Country is the male lead, Zhang Wenlin is the female lead, Jiang Sufan is the malicious female supporting actress who was offline early. She is the niece of the malicious female supporting actress. At that time, Jiang Wenzhu accidentally came across this book and had a bad impression on the Jiang family. She even sighed for a while for a few young girls in the Jiang family, but unexpectedly, the person she sighed for turned into herself. Jiang Sufan, dare you prick me with a needle? You despicable embryo, you won't be able to get married in this lifetime. Only the most despicable, impoverished, and unproductive man will marry you. You are the dirtiest, ugliest, and most useless woman in Xinhua village. Ma Shi cursed at her throat, her voice piercing from the beginning to the end of the village. Jiang Sufan burst into tears. Anyway, she is also an unmarried girl from Yanning. How could she hear such malicious words? Zhang was extremely angry and kicked Ma Shi on the buttocks, cursing loudly, Ma Shi, you dead prostitute. Keep your mouth clean, spray feces all over your mouth, and the stench is so strong. You're just a bunch of rotten meat, lying on the ground without anyone looking at you. Why do you compare yourself to my daughter? Jiang Dafu felt hundreds of ducks barking in his ears and angrily said with a black face, stop it, everyone. No one listened to Jiang Dafu, they all thought he didn't exist. Ma grabbed Zhang's ear with one hand and Jiang Sufan's hair with the other, while Zhang and Jiang Sufan grabbed one side of Ma's face. Zhang, let go, don't even listen to me, do you think about it? Sufan, hurry back to the house. What does a girl's house look like? How dare one or two not listen to him? It's unbelievable. Jiang Dafu's anger surged up his chest, his mind numb, and he felt that his position as the head of the family was being challenged. Jiang Sufan first let go of her hand, and Ma Shi followed suit, focusing her attention on Zhang Shi. Zhang trembled and quickly let go. Having been married for many years, she knows Jiang Dafu's temper very well. She usually doesn't get angry, and her anger is extraordinary. She'd better restrain herself. Ma Shi saw her let go and couldn't hold on any longer. He took the opportunity to leave 2 bloodstains on her face, pinching her fingernails so hard that they were almost broken before getting up. He crossed his waist and sneered. Zhang Shi, Jiang Dafu, if I don't take the money today, I won't leave. I'll eat your family's food, drink your family's food, and use your family's food. I'll pay 2 won a day. When I finish paying off the debt, I'll go home. Ma Shi was so angry that his heart and mouth hurt. His face was blood-stained and hot. Seeing Ma Shi cross his waist and be arrogant, he felt deeply insulted. Fuck your mother. You're going into the thatched cottage with a lantern, looking for death. The people in this world who can take advantage of my old Jiang family haven't been born yet, who are you? The Sun family next door couldn't help but complain to Mr. Zhou, when will this be going on? It won't cause any problems. Let me go take a look. Before Mr. Zhou could stop him, the Sun family disappeared. Sun walked out of the courtyard without a trace and happened to see the village chief passing by. He pulled someone into the courtyard of the Jiang family and shouted inside. "The village chief is here." The village chief stroked his beard, took steady steps, and asked, "What's going on? I've been listening to all the commotion from here all this way, and you don't care about Tofu. How could a man do this? Jiang and Ma, why did you fight?" Ma and Jiang exchanged a glance and spoke eagerly, fearing that the village chief might believe the other's slander. The village chief felt a headache upon hearing this, waved his hand, pointed to Sunshire, and said, "You go ahead." Jiang became anxious and said, "How can this be done? Village chief, her pillar just bullied my family and flew first. Who would talk to me?" Ma was taken aback for a moment, and her heart was filled with joy. Miss Sun's character is admired by the whole village. To be frank, the village chief is a reasonable person and will definitely make decisions for us. Jiang gave Ma a fierce glare, it was too cunning. He first flattered the village chief and then spoke well of Sun, shameless. Sun ignored Ma Shi, remained impartial and explained the matter clearly, retreating to the side. The village chief turned his face to Jiang Dafu and asked, "Dafu, what do you think? Is that so?" Jiang Dafu felt his face turn pale and he said, "Sister Sun is right. There's no way, even if you don't admit it, you can't run away. There's also Mr. Zhou next door." The village chief said, "Then give the money. Jiang, Sufan, and Ma have all been injured and are responsible for their own medical expenses. However, the 100 yuan delivery cannot be reduced. This is the village's rule. If anyone doesn't follow the rules, they will be kicked out of the village with a big stick." Jiang Dafu nodded and said, "Sure, I'll go get the money now." "Jiang, you go. What money should I take?" Jiang stamped his foot on the ground and was about to speak. Jiang Dafu's eyes widened and he glanced at her, his gaze icy cold. Jiang immediately became honest and walked into the house, taking out a string of money. He didn't want to throw it on the ground and said, "Humph, you're ruthless." Ma Shi didn't care either, picked up the money and spat on the ground, then turned around and left. This Jiang family, if she doesn't give enough money in the future, she will kowtow and kneel to admit her mistake, and she will never step in again. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 005 Delivery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005 Delivery. Seeing Ma confidently taking away 100 large coins, Zhang's heart was pounding with pain, and he also saw a stillborn fetus on the ground, making him very restless. Zhang kicked the stone under his feet fiercely, feeling the pent-up fire in his heart unable to spread. He felt like he was about to explode and screamed loudly into the room. "Lin, you're a broom star. It's just that you can't give birth to a son. You even spent $100 on me and sold you for nothing. You're still lying in bed, why don't you die?" Zhang rushed into the room and slapped Lin twice in the ear. Lin was in pain from the beating and frowned fiercely, but did not wake up. Zhang snorted coldly, stopped his hand, and shifted his gaze to the doll on the bed. In a small swaddle, the doll closed its eyes and breathed heavily, very forcefully. Zhang had a heart attack and cursed loudly, "Why didn't you die? Damn people don't die, damn people die. You took my grandson's life." Jiang Wenzhu couldn't help but roll her eyes, but unfortunately the newborn's eyes were too small, and Zhang's attention was not on her, so she couldn't see it anymore. Zhang rudely picked up Jiang Wenzhu, and Triangle's eyes were full of resentment. "A girl, a big disaster star in the movie, killed her brother, and wants to stay in my old Jiang family to cause trouble. My old Jiang family must not be harmed by such a disaster star like you." Jiang Wenzhu was horrified and startled, her head buzzing. What was she doing? "Mom, what are you doing?" Upon hearing the commotion, Jiang Xianyong saw Zhang charging fiercely towards the outside, holding his little daughter in his arms, as if he was about to throw him to death in the next second. He quickly stood in front of Jiang. "Mom, what are you doing? Give me Xia." Jiang pouted angrily and said, "Get out of the way." Jiang Xianyong was sweating nervously, but couldn't stop him from saying, "Mom, this is my child. Where are you going to carry her?" Jiang sneered, "Take her to the right place, at the beginning and end of the village, up and down the mountain, in the grass, in the dung bin. Where can't we put such a coat like her?" Jiang Xianyong's heart was pounding with fear, and his face turned pale with fear. "Mother, my mother. How could you throw the child away? Aren't you doing this to poke my son's heart? Anyway, this is also my bone and blood, even if it's a girl." He couldn't bear it. How could his mother do such a thing, to throw away his child? Seeing his injured and incredulous expression on his face, Jiang's mind heated up again and he said, "What, for the sake of a newborn baby, are you going against your mother? How come I didn't know you were so successful? Today, I'll leave my words here. This family has me, she, and me. You can decide for yourself whether to have a mother or this little disaster star." "Mom, Jiang Xianyong held back for a while, unable to say a word. "Dad, please advise Mom." Jiang Dafu had a mournful face and a cold expression on his face. He looked at Jiang, then at Jiang Xianyong, and then at the doll in Jiang's hand and the dead baby on the ground, but remained silent. Jiang was furious and said, "What's there to advise? Our family can't keep this disaster star, it will kill the whole family. If we keep her, let's not think about it. We can't let her ruin the fortune and feng shui of the old Jiang family." Jiang Dafu was persuaded by Mrs. Jiang that the fortune and feng shui of the old Jiang family are much more important than a girl. So the head of the family spoke up and said, "Boss, why don't we give away anyone? With so many children at home, we can't harm the whole family just because of her." Jiang Wenzhu. I'm not. What did I do to harm the whole family? To add sin, Jiang Yan has no words. Jiang Xianyong looked at Jiang Wenzhu and saw the little doll open her eyes. Her dark and pure eyes were spotless, unable to see the filthy and dark world of Renjiang. Her face was dim. "Dad, Mom, the baby has just been born. What does she know? Let's keep her, otherwise how can I explain it to the mother? When should I explain to the Lin family about my Jiang family's doll?" Jiang Dafu said irritably, "Xianyong, you are a man and need to stand up." Jiang quickly agreed, "Yeah, this Lin family is unlucky to rush. Back then. If you give birth to 7 or 8 daughters in one go, you still keep them all. If you contribute to someone else's family raising daughters, your own family will be punished. Are you stupid? If you want to be the scapegoat, I don't want to." After speaking, I threw the doll away. Mom. Jiang Xianyong was so scared that he bit his tongue and quickly reached out to pick it up. He grabbed his swaddle with his big hand and sweated profusely. "Mom, be careful. What if I don't catch it?" Jiang Wenzhu couldn't help but change her arms. After listening to Jiang Xianyong's words, her whole body felt cold. She almost fell to death. Jiang really wants her life. Jiang's face turned cold and said, "You don't agree. Anyway, I must send the doll away. We can't keep her at home, so we can throw it away in any corner. Even if we eat it, there will be wolves, tigers, and leopards. But if you agree, I can choose a good family for her." At this moment, Jiang Sufan quietly came out of the room and walked forward. "Big brother, listen to your mother. We don't have enough money to raise so many girls at home. If we can't feed them, we'll starve to death. What else can we use to support my nephew? You have to keep some money for my unborn nephew, and there are 2 and 3 daughters. When we grow up, we don't need a dowry. Listen to your mother, let's give them away. It's also to find a way for Xia to survive." Jiang Sufan had a very clear idea. If there were fewer people in the family who sent away the little doll, her dowry would be a bit more. She couldn't let a little doll spend her money. If there was a chance, it would be best to send away all the big girls, 2 girls, and 3 girls. If there were more dowries, Happy Country would marry her. Jiang Sufan had a very serious idea and earnestly advised, "Big brother, isn't she just a girl? You already have 3 girls, why bother with this one?" Jiang Wenzhu was stunned. "The girl is a loser, speaking as if you are not women. As both women, why do you have so much malice towards each other? Why do we have to give her away? Now it depends on whether her father can block it or not." Jiang Xianyong's heart was throbbing with pain, and the heavens and humans engaged in a battle. "Dad, Mom, Sister, is there no other way? What can he do when his family asks him to give away the doll?" Jiang Xianyong is very panicked. Jiang said, "Why don't we sell all the big girls, 2 girls, and 3 girls and keep this one? What do you think?" "That's not possible." Jiang Xianyong shook his body and blurted out. "Then let's give it away." Jiang Dafu said firmly, "I'll go find a good family and send it away in a few days. Don't hold this doll for your daughter. In law to see, so she won't make a fuss. Don't publicize it, it's not good for our family's reputation. If we send it away in a few days, it will be said that the person will die of illness, okay?" Jiang Xianyong was at a loss and responded eagerly. "My parents have spoken up, he can't bear it. He is a filial son and has never disobeyed my parents from childhood to adulthood." Jiang clapped her hands in satisfaction and pointed to the 3 trembling girls huddled at the door, saying, "Don't speak recklessly, big girl, 2 girl, and 3 girl. Whoever says it will be sold. In the future, you should also be obedient at home, and even those who don't listen will be sold. Do you know?" End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 006 Refusal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6006 Refusal. The 3 maids turned pale and sat on the ground, trembling with fear. Jiang Wenzhu called out, twice. She didn't want to be given away. What if she was given to someone with a black heart and stewed? She's just a baby, unable to resist, can only accept fate. This family is extremely despicable, with a preference for sons over daughters and superstitious beliefs. Lin must wake up quickly. Jiang Wenzhu can only rely on this mother now. Her cheap father can no longer stop her. Mr. Zhou and Mr. Sun, who had listened to the entire conversation next door, exchanged glances and sighed deeply. Sun spat and said, "I didn't expect Jiang Dafu and Zhang to be so ruthless that they would give away their child, especially this Zhang. They really have to take action." Mr. Zhou shook his head and said, "Jiang Sufan is not a good person either. Jiang Xianyong and the Lin family are too weak. Let's have less contact with their family in the future." Sun could no longer agree, "That's right, we can't bring our children to ruin. Dealing with such a family is really exhausting." Mr. Zhou said, "Just stay a little further away. We are neighbors, and often we have to be involved. Unless we completely tear our faces apart, we will break up our friendship. It's not a matter of deep hatred, it's not worth it. We just look up and don't look down." Lin was awakened by a loud noise. The morning sun shone through the window and shone on her, bringing a little warmth. She hurriedly went to look at the doll next to her, but saw nothing. "Dad, Mom, let's leave it in our village. At least you can see it in front of you and take care of it." Jiang Xianyong held the doll, feeling a bit reluctant. Zhang snorted coldly, with a tone full of criticism. "Send it to your fellow villagers and watch it every day. What's the difference between it and raising it yourself? What's so rare about girl movies? If you throw them far away, it's better not to see them." Jiang Xianyong really wants to say, "Can we not give it away? Our family is not so poor that we can't afford it. He works hard and there will always be a baby to eat." He tried to persuade his parents, "Dad, Mom, don't worry, I won't go see it, nor will I let the mother, big girl, 2 girls, and 3 girls see it. I'll make it clear to them later, and I won't let outsiders see it. He just needs to watch from a distance and know that the doll is good. Jiang Dafu scratched his face, took off a piece of dead skin, and the wrinkles on his face were deeply indented. He held the dry tobacco stick and took a deep breath, saying, "What are you talking about? Are you talking to the Lin family? Lao Zhang's family is shameless. Where do you like to send it? If a girl goes out and rushes to see it, are you willing or not?" Jiang Xianyong was taken aback for a moment, then he was overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Dad. Let's find a family in the village and send Sia over." Then he promised, "Dad, don't worry, I won't go find the doll, and no one else will let me find the doll." Lin in the room was filled with fear, with a pale and terrifying face, as if falling into an ice cave. "Why do you want to send Sia away? Her child, she didn't even see her before sending her away. How can this be done?" Lin shouted at the top of her throat, "Xianyong, bring the child in." Upon hearing that his wife had woken up, Jiang Xianyong didn't want to, so he walked in with the doll in his arms. As soon as she walked to the bedside, Lin held the doll tightly to her chest, tears rolling down her face. Hot tears dripped onto the doll's face, and Jiang Wenzhu was awakened. She looked at Lin Shi and shouted, "Ah, ah," twice, tugging at her collar and not letting go, afraid of leaving her and being sent away. Lin understood, and the child couldn't bear to part with her mother. She couldn't help but cry, "Xiangong, why should we send the doll away? I don't agree." Jiang Dafu remained silent for a while before explaining, "My parents said that she killed our son and would bring misfortune to the Jiang family, so we need to send her away. Otherwise, she will be thrown into the forest and fed to the wild beasts, and I have no choice." Seeing Lin crying, Jiang Dafu was very frustrated. He couldn't resist his parents and had never rebelled against them since childhood. This time, he naturally had no way to deal with them. Lin was even more stubborn, but she couldn't let go of her daughter and said, "No, we can't give Sia away." Zhang rushed in and slapped her, saying, "If you don't deliver it, why don't you? Why are these useless things coming, staying at home to cause trouble? Lin, I told you that we must send the child away today. If you don't agree, we'll have to arrest you bravely and then take the few losers you gave birth to and get out of here. My old Jiang family can't afford to serve these bodhisattvas, they don't have that luck, let alone that fate." Lin sobbed and said, "Mother, you can't do this." Zhang felt disgusted when she saw her sorrowful and crying face, so she grabbed the doll and walked out. "Cry and cry, you know how to cry in a day. The Jiang family was ruined by your crying. If I had known that you were lucky, I wouldn't have said anything to Xianyong and married you. I really thought I was a bodhisattva and wanted to eat shit. I'm not dead yet, so I get angry with you every day. I can't even give birth to a grandson, and you still have the face to cry. If I were you, I would just hit and kill you, so as not to waste my Jiang family's rice. Even raising a dog can still wag its tail for me. What's the use of raising you?" Lin suddenly lost her doll, got up in panic, and was about to get off the Kong to chase after her. However, she stumbled and fell to the ground, feeling unbearable pain and unable to walk. Lin pleaded with Jiang Xianyong, "Xiangong, can you go and bring Sia back? You can't let the doll lose its parents right after birth. This is gouging out my heart." She covered her face in agony and said, "What do dolls know? No punishment, no punishment. I'm useless as a mother. I can't keep my son or daughter. This is asking me to die." Thinking of his deceased son, Jiang Xianyong felt dejected and said, "Madam, there's nothing I can do. If I don't send away Sia, I'll buy all 3 maids and even take you off. I can't do it." Lin was stunned, as if losing all his strength, sitting on the ground silently shedding tears. Outside, Jiang Sufan saw Zhang holding the doll and walking outside, feeling a surge of joy in her heart. She was about to say, "Mom, I'll go with you." Just outside came a woman wearing a gray long dress and wrapped in a gray handkerchief, dragging Jiang Xianfei with a dusty face and kicking him into the yard. "Jiang, your foolish son broke the head of my little flower and it's bleeding. You must compensate today, 1 or 2 silver." Jiang opened her mouth and cursed, "Fuck your mother, Xiaohua, let's fly first." "What's going on? Don't try to mislead anyone." Lu Xiaohua's mother collapsed her face and stared at Jiang with a particularly cold expression. "Everyone has seen it. I have a witness, you can't deny it." Jiang refused to admit it, claiming that her son was unjustly accused. Lu Xiaohua's heart was full of deceit and wanted to deceive her. Lu Xiaohua didn't say anything else. She pulled out a knife from behind and pressed it against Jiang Xianfei's neck, saying, "Do you give me money or not? If you don't give me money, I'll take a knife and eliminate harm for the people." Jiang was so frightened that he quickly agreed, "I'll give it to you. Stay calm and don't take any action." Lu Xiaohua's mother is the daughter of a butcher. Since childhood, she has been following her father to kill pigs. Jiang is afraid that if she is not good, she will ruthlessly kill people. Lu Xiaohua sneered and said, "Hurry up, 1 or 2 silver coins, not a penny can be missing." Jiang, "Sure, don't let your foolish son come out again in the future, otherwise you won't be able to afford to pay for your wealth." Jiang was deeply resentful, but could only go back in anger to get the money, not daring to say a word, afraid that she would start killing. Jiang Wenzhu lay in Jiang's arms, staring coldly, wishing to clap her hands and cheer. Jiang's bullying and fear of hard looks really ugly, but unfortunately she is still a doll and cannot resist, otherwise she will make her look even worse. On the side, Jiang Sufan saw that Lu Xiaohua's mother was so fierce and her face turned pale. Without hesitation, she quietly retreated and slipped out through the back door. She's going to find Xinghua. Maybe Xinghua's brother is in a good mood today and will pay attention to her. There may be some typos when writing, but I will try my best to avoid them. I welcome everyone's help in catching bugs, and I will correct them when I have time. Thank you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 007 Confession. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7007 Confession in the courtyard of the Jiang family. The money was exchanged and Lu Xiaohua's mother was sent away. Jiang's chest was filled with depression, and when she looked at Jiang Wenzhu's eyes, she felt even more angry and uncontrollable. She pointed at her and said maliciously, "You disaster star, it's all your fault. With you at the Jiang family, it's definitely not a good thing. How long has it been since you caused trouble? Your arrival caused him to lose money. If I don't send you away today, I won't be surnamed Jiang." Jiang couldn't wait for a moment. When she saw Jiang Wenzhu, she felt annoyed and wished she could slap her to death. She kept cursing incessantly. "Girl, it's all your fault for losing money on movies. If it weren't for you, I would have used it to give up money. I killed my grandson at birth, lost 101, and today it's only 1 or 2 silver coins. You're going to ruin all of my Jiang family's money. What do you think of my Lao Jiang family as, funnel? How much money can you leak? I've never seen a dead child like you who doesn't gather wealth before. I'll let you leak money. Jiang Wenzhu. Are you sick? Neurosis. Jiang will curse again." Jiang Dafu spoke up in a deep voice before she continued cursing, "Send the person to the Tofu Xishi family at the east end of the village." This is the result of his discussion with Jiang Xianyong. Jiang's scolding paused, and his boss was unhappy in his heart. His face couldn't help but show a twisted expression on his face. He glared fiercely at Jiang Wenzhu and replied, "Got it. If you ask me, I should throw it away and feed the wolf. What kind of tofu should I give as a gift? It's a waste of time." Jiang held Jiang Wenzhu in her arms, feeling extremely angry. As she walked, she muttered, her face full of malice towards Jiang Wenzhu. It's time to sell you and get $2 to buy tomatoes on sticks for my son. But you have 3 bones and 4 tendons. You can't eat them when you are steamed. Nobody will buy them. If there were no children in Tofu Shishi's family, I would not be able to give them away. Dead girl, it's useless. Jiang Wenzhu's eyes flickered as she wanted to choose a family to send her away, as they had no children. Jiang Wenzhu couldn't express her feelings, whether she should be happy or angry, with only one thought in her heart. Hoping to be a good family, better than in the hands of Zhang. Zhang's footsteps were fast as she walked eastward. The provincial doll was holding her eyes in front of her, making her unable to vent her anger. Jiang Wenzhu, nestled in Zhang's arms, grabbed her collar with her small hand and accidentally touched her right wrist, touching a hard object with her finger. Looking up, a huge silver bracelet appeared in front of her, and Jiang Wenzhu swallowed her saliva. Wanting it so much. As soon as the thought fell, the silver bracelet on Zhang's wrist disappeared. Jiang Wenzhu. Where did the bracelet go? At the same time, a bracelet came to mind. Jiang Wenzhu couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. There was a space in her mind, about 1 cubic meter of space. Jiang Wenzhu really wanted to laugh 3 times. Heaven has eyes, and she really wanted to know the expression on Zhang's face when she found out the bracelet was missing. Her dark life finally had a bright light. Jiang Sufan, who was walking in front of Jiang Wenzhu and the others and sneaking out, was wearing a goose-yellow shirt, a purple underskirt and a pink silk flower on her head. She was graceful, and walked all the way to the east of the village. Her home had to pass through several households before leaving Happy Country. Qin Sanger on the roadside saw her with envy in her eyes, and quickly stepped forward to praise her. "Oh Sufan, you look so beautiful. You want a lot of money, your mother really cares about you and is willing to buy you new clothes." Jiang Sufan felt proud in her heart, raised her chin, and gave her a sideways glance. "My mother loves me the most," she said. Qin Sanger nodded and flattered. "Sufan, I'm going to visit my cousin's house in a few days. Can you lend me this outfit to wear for 2 days?" Without waiting for Jiang Sufan to refuse, Qin Sanger begged her pitifully, "Good Sufan, your clothes look good everywhere. I really like them, but unfortunately her mother can't bear the money and won't make new clothes for her all year round. You have pity on me, lend them to me." Jiang Sufan immediately changed her face and refused without hesitation. "No, my clothes have only been worn twice." "What should you do if you wear them out?" Qin Sanger raised her fingers to the sky and swore loudly. "Don't worry, Sufan. I will definitely take good care of her and never damage her." Jiang Sufan sneered, her face filled with disdain and contempt, and she gently uttered 2 words. "No borrowing. After speaking, lift your head and chest up, raise your neck, and walk forward step by step." She wants to find her Xinghua brother, and doesn't have time to chat with Qin Sanger. Who knows if Qin Sanger borrowed her clothes to go to her cousin's house or to seduce Xinghua. Qin Sanger gritted her teeth and looked at her back. Her face turned red and white, and she said with hatred, "Stingy, who's so rare?" Jiang Sufan didn't care about Qin Sanger's mood and quickly arrived at the door of the Happy Country. She felt a bit uneasy in her heart. She was kicked out of the Happy Country last time, won't she be kicked out again this time? Jiang Sufan hesitated for a moment and muttered softly, "I don't know if Brother Xinghua is at home or if there are any other women looking for him. Xiao, Jian, and Hu Zi are really hateful. I just know that Xiao Xiang doesn't belong to their men. Happy Country is hers, she has to guard it well. No other woman can match her, so she has to stand aside." Just as he was thinking about it, he saw Xinghua walking out of the gate, followed by 2 13 or 14-year-old girls from Xinghua village, one named Lu Xiaohua and the other named Zhang Wenlin, both of whom were quite good looking. "Xinghua, thank you. We will send you vegetable seeds tomorrow." Jiang Wenzhu widened her eyes and saw two girls. Her nose was crooked with anger, and Happy Country laughed at them, infuriating her to death. The fox spirit is really shameless. Jiang Wenzhu was about to jump out and find trouble for the two of them when she saw Xingxingguo standing at the door watching them leave. In order to maintain her image, Jiang Wenzhu had to give up. Brother Xinghua, Jiang Wenzhu called out to Xinghua, who was about to enter the house, can you take a step to speak? Xingxingguo glanced at her with a serious expression and a very cold expression. Miss Jiang, if you have anything, let's talk about it here. Jiang Wenzhu's face turned red. Xinghua was really beautiful, even with a cold face. No wonder Lu Xiaohua and Zhang Wenlin liked him and shamelessly approached him. No, she has to take the initiative and not let anyone take the lead. Xinghua, I like you. Do you like me? Zhang, who had just walked over, paused in her footsteps and looked ahead, her triangular eyes fixed on Jiang Wenzhu and Xinghua. It was a good moment. Jiang Wenzhu is babbling her lips, is cheap auntie confessing her feelings. Which poor person has been taken notice of by Jiang Wenzhu, so I sympathize with him. Miss Jiang, thank you. We're not suitable, said Xinghua's face even colder after speaking, turn around and leave. Jiang Wenzhu became anxious and took a step forward, grabbing Xinghua's sleeve. Where is it not suitable? Xingxingguo tugged at his sleeve and said, I've told Miss Jiang before that it's not suitable anywhere. Jiang Wenzhu was extremely sad, tears streaming down her face. Don't worry, I've changed everything you said. Whatever you like, I'll become what you want. Don't listen to those people in the village talking nonsense, thinking that I can't give birth to a son. Although my sister.in.law has several daughters, I'm different from my sister.in.law. I can definitely give you a son. Seeking collection, seeking recommendation tickets, during the new book period, please support the suitors. Thank you for your reward, my lord. You are so generous. You are rich and generous. You are generous and generous. Awesome loves you, Momoda, end of this chapter. Chapter 8. 008 Tofu Xishi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8008 Tofu Xishi. Oh my god, what are you saying? I'm afraid I'm not a fool. Jiang Wenzhu's mood is complex. Xingxingguo looked frightened and took a few steps back, wishing to cover her mouth. Miss Jiang, be cautious. Miss Jiang is self-respecting. I have never had any ulterior motives towards you, he said. Jiang Wenzhu looked at Xinghua with surprise and said, what kind of unreasonable thoughts? I like you. If you think of me, then we have a deep connection. How can we be considered unreasonable thoughts? We like and admire each other, how can we not be considered arrogant? Brother Xinghua, please don't feel embarrassed. I have been thinking of you in my heart. Jiang Wenzhu was very happy and said, so you, like me, have imagined how we would get married and live together. Brother Xinghua, even though you are too shy, I can't help but feel shy. Although girls should be reserved, you are so shy. I would rather take the initiative. Happy Country was stunned. What he said turned into this. Can she stop talking to herself? Jiang Wenzhu continued to work hard and said, Brother Xinghua, don't you like being gentle and generous? I am gentle and generous. I like it. If you want to marry you, can you marry me? Don't like anyone else. Quanhua regained his senses, his veins jumping on his forehead, and he raised his voice to interrupt her, saying, enough, Miss Jiang, I don't like you. I never thought about marrying you. Don't come to me again in the future. After speaking, he turned around and entered the room. The door was slammed hard against the frame by him, and he inserted it with his backhand. With a look of joy at the country's survival from disaster, he felt extremely disgusted. Who wants to have a son with her? Jiang Wenzhu almost burst into a burst of laughter, which was very good. She refused directly, and the conversation was too much for others to understand. Jiang Wenzhu covered her face and cried, feeling even sadder as she thought about it. She burst into tears. Brother Xinghua must have thought I was lying, thinking that I couldn't give birth to a son. It's all because of the Lin family. They occupied a pit and didn't even have a child with a handle, which caused me to be rejected by Brother Xinghua. I can really have a son. Why don't you agree to me? I can give birth to you. I won't give up. As he spoke, he pinched his handkerchief and ran away. Zhang's expression was particularly gloomy. She looked at Jiang Wenzhu's back and bared her teeth at Jiang Wenzhu, saying, "Look at your mother's wrongdoing. One person has harmed 3 generations, not only because she cannot pass on the family line to the old Jiang family, but also because she has caused me Wenzhu to miss out on being a good son. Law. Jiang Wenzhu. What a magical brain circuit, the refreshing, refined style of shaking the pot. She is truly a daughter and mother, with a flawed brain that has been passed down through generations." Zhang pinched the swaddle in her hand, thought for a moment, and withdrew her hand. Biting her cold and thin lips, suppressing the desire to strangle Jiang Wenzhu, she walked deep and shallow towards the Tofu Xishi family. Jiang Wenzhu looked coldly at the silver earrings on Zhang's ears and the silver hairpin on her head, and her mind moved. She wanted to put the earrings and hairpin into space, but she tried twice but was unsuccessful. What's going on? Do we need to touch the earrings? But she can't touch it, can't she use mental energy? Jiang Wenzhu extended her small hand and approached Zhang's face. With a slap, it hit Zhang's face. Zhang let out a loud cry. The dead child dared to hit her, which was not very harmful but extremely insulting. She raised her hand high and fiercely slapped Jiang Wenzhu's buttocks, cursing loudly in her mouth. "Dead child, dare to hit my mother. Even if you lose money, you can turn the tables. If you dare to hit my mother, I will double the amount and give you back. If it weren't for the old man saying he wants to give you away, I would have eaten you now." Jiang Wenzhu focused her energy and gave it a final try. Finally, before falling asleep, she used her mental strength to put the silver earrings and hairpin into the space. "Aunt Zhang, as you know, our family wanted to find a suitable one to bring the child back, but we didn't find a suitable one. Your doll was given to me, and I belong to our Lu family. I can't regret it. If I want to take the child back in the future, I won't be willing to comply." Tofu Xishi Lu Shi is a person who appears gentle, delicate, and weak, with willow eyebrows, apricot eyes, a rosy nose and lips, and a clear and crisp voice. She held Jiang Wenzhu and lightly tapped the doll's nose with her fingers, saying, "Aunt Zhang, do all your family agree to give me the doll? Can you make the decision?" Zhang trembled all over and grinned, "Roar, Xianglian, you're just joking. I've always been the one in charge of my family's affairs, and the girl is just a loser. I'm not rare in my family, and I'll give you yours." Lu remained noncommittal and said, "I don't care who is in charge of your family. The ugly words are at the forefront. Please write a document to me and agree to transfer this doll before I can take over." Zhang became anxious and said, "What, do you still need documents?" Lu Shi's expression was taken for granted and he said, "Otherwise, there is no basis for words, and words are used as evidence to save trouble in the future." Zhang was unhappy and felt that her character was being questioned. She snorted with a garlic nose and a gloomy face, shouting, "What do you mean, Lu? You don't believe me. You gave me a child for free. Since you don't believe me, why do you still want my child?" Lu was displeased and whispered, "Auntie, look, you're angry. What's so angry about? What's the big deal? Just ask you to write a document admitting that you voluntarily give the child to me. Whether the child will be good or bad in the future has nothing to do with you. There is no evidence to support it. Hello, everyone. It's a formal process. If Auntie doesn't agree, I dare not take this doll. Why bother so much? just hold on to me and I won't trouble you in the future. Zhang was a bit impatient as she couldn't write and it was troublesome to find someone to write documents. I won't do it then. Lucia remained motionless and bit to death, demanding documents. Looking at Zhang like this, she didn't want documents. She couldn't afford to waste her energy. Zhang couldn't help but agree, you wait, I'll go back and write a document for you. Lu stood up and prepared to hand Jiang Wenzhu to Zhang. Zhang turned his face away in disgust and waved his hand, leave it with you. I'll come back in a while. Lu sat down holding Jiang Wenzhu and looked at the sleeping doll, whispering softly, doll, I'm preparing for the rain. Your grandmother is very difficult to deal with, and I don't believe her. In Xinhua village, who doesn't know that Zhang is a rolling knife meat? Soon, Zhang returned to her room and talked to Jiang Dafu about the document. Jiang Dafu suggested going to Xingxingguo to write it. Zhang retorted on the spot, what are you going to? You think losing someone is not ugly enough? That kid is just a dog's eye that looks down on people. I won't rush to give him a face. Jiang Dafu put down the bamboo strips and asked, what's going on? Zhang added fuel and vinegar to what he had just seen. Jiang Dafu took a deep breath and his anger surged in his heart. Sufan, come out. Jiang Sufan, who was hiding in the room crying, shook and came out slowly. As soon as he left, Jiang Dafu slapped him in the face and said, how could you give such a terrible thing as a girl, to rush to get close to a man? Do you still want to be shameless? Where did you put my face, and where did you put our Jiang family's face? I made you look shameless. Jiang Dafu slapped Jiang Sufan in the face again. Zhang quickly stood in front of Jiang Sufan and advised, old man, please don't fight for now. What should I do with Tofu Xishi? If I don't provide the documents, they will let me bring them back. Jiang Sufan jumped out from behind, her apricot eyes widened, and she shouted loudly, how can we do that? That dead girl will kill me, and we must not let her come back. I will go find happy country. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 009 Pig Brain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9009 Pig Brain, Come Back. Jiang Dafu sternly rebuked, I still don't think it's embarrassing enough. Zhang saw that Jiang Dafu was so angry that his hair stood up. In a fit of anger, Jiang Dafu could not be provoked. He quickly shifted his spear and cursed at the room. Hello Lin, you gave birth to a loser and lay in bed all day. You wanted me to be your mother. In law to take care of you. Look at your useless cowardice. You can't even give birth to a baby, and they also think your baby is useless. Lin in the room is eating corn batter, which is made by Jia. Zhang is not willing to take care of her at all, so he wouldn't cook for her. Dia, go outside and find out where your sister has been sent by them. Lin couldn't eat enough and forced her to drink the last congee. She should get better as soon as possible, or no one in the family will think about her and her children. Dia took the bowl and said, okay mother, I'll wash the dishes and go. She also wants to know where her sister went, except when she was born, she hasn't seen her sister since then. Dia was about to take Arya and Sanya out when Jiang Xianyong came in from the door. Dad! A few girls shouted and walked around from Jiang Xianyong's side. As she walked to the door, Dia seemed to think of something and looked up at Jiang Xianyong eagerly. Dad, Grandma's son said that my mother just gave birth to a younger sister and she wants to eat some good food to nourish her body. The corn paste I just ate, Dad, can you find something delicious for my mother? Ah, Jiang Xianyong smiled at a few girls, Dad, find a way. Dia nodded happily and went out with a few younger sisters. Arya followed Dia and couldn't help but sniff, Big sister, do you really have any delicious food or eggs? Eggs are delicious. Sanya swallowed her saliva, but unfortunately she rarely eats them. The taste of eggs is really delicious. Jiang Xianyong looked at Lin Shi with guilt. His wife had just given birth and had to eat corn paste. She didn't even have an egg, his mother didn't cook, he was a big man with no money, and he couldn't even give his wife an egg. Jiang Xianyong listened to the voices of several female dolls leaving the door and whispered, daughter.in.law, I'll pick bird eggs for you to eat later. If I can't find them, I'll go dig a wild chicken nest and make chicken soup for you to milk. Lin lowered her head and didn't look at him. The pain of giving birth made her sweat profusely. She wiped away her tears and said, the baby is gone. What kind of milk is there? I'm useless. I gave birth to a few girls for you, and your mother said she's going to give me a rest. Jiang Xianyong felt even more guilty, and the tall man began to feel uncomfortable. Madam, I won't take you off. Don't worry, I will find a way to bring the doll back. My father and I have agreed to send the doll to Tofu Shishi's house in the village. Tofu Shishi will definitely treat the doll well. Lin's eyes lit up and he lifted his head in surprise, asking, really? Really, what am I deceiving you for? Tears welled up in Lin's eyes. The Tofu Shishi family is doing well. Her dolls don't have to endure hardship anymore, so you can go see them when you have time. Lin knew that the Lu Xianglian family of Tofu Shishi was a wealthy family in Xinhua village, with strong assets and a prosperous family background. They had a blue brick and tile house, as well as dozens of acres of land rented to others for cultivation. Most importantly, they also had profits from making tofu, and the Lu family of Tofu Shishi only had one daughter, Lu Xianglian of Tofu Shishi. Mr. Lu loves his own daughter, who is almost 40 years old and only has one daughter. Mr. Lu and Mrs. Lu are getting older and do not want to take concubines to have children. After Mrs. Lu's persuasion was unsuccessful, the couple decided to recruit a son-in-law and let Lu Xianglian give birth to a child to inherit the family's incense, passing on the lineage to the Lu family. Lu Xianglian was pampered from a young age and grew up. When she reached old age, she got married under the arrangement of her parents. She married Wang Quan, the son-in-law chosen by Mr. Lu, and their relationship was also very good. Unfortunately, after 5 years of marriage, she didn't even have a single egg. Not to mention the male child, even the female child doesn't have any, but the anxiety has angered the elderly couple of the Lu family. All kinds of methods have been exhausted, such as seeking medical treatment, taking folk remedies, praying to the gods and Buddha, but there has been no movement. The Lu family gradually became anxious and disappointed, and in the end, they had no choice. They heard that they couldn't conceive a baby at home, so it was easy to keep a baby and bring good luck to their family. Therefore, the Lu family wanted to marry a baby to attract them. Has our fourth child been taken to fetch her? Lin suddenly realized and struggled to get out of bed to see her own child. Unexpectedly, her feet softened and she fell to the ground, causing immense pain and unable to get up. Jiang Xianyong saw it and quickly ran over to pick up the Lin family, wanting to put them on the con. Jiang, who happened to be picking trouble inside the house, saw it and rushed in from the door. She stopped Jiang Xianyong and revealed her big yellow teeth, shouting at the two of them. What are you doing? What are you doing? With the hugs and hugs of the blue sky and the white sun, you can't help but seduce men right after giving birth. Lin, why are you so shameless? You can't hold on so much. In the future, will you give Xianyong a green hat? Are you secretly carrying him on your back? The more Zhang spoke, the more she felt it was going on. Fortunately, her son was blind and couldn't see Lin's fickleness. He was so kind to Lin, giving birth to a girl and hugging her so sweetly that he didn't even listen to her. This is not possible, can Zhang see this? Xianyong, listen to your mother's advice. Let's kick this fickle woman out and have a new woman with a big butt give birth to a son for you. Don't use these tattered shoes. Jiang Xianyong's face turned red and he became angry. What are you talking about, Mom? Mom is a good woman, not something. He said in tattered shoes. He actually shouted at her. Zhang jumped up with one bone and crossed her waist fiercely, saying, she's just a tattered shoe. She likes to mess with men. What do you want a woman like this to do? I think you've been blinded by her. If you have a wife and forget your mother, I'll suffer so hard. I won't live anymore. Uncle Zhou next door furrowed his brows and pinched a dead mosquito, saying, "This lady's mouth is not clean, she's starting to spray feces again." Sun put down her crutch and tucked old Zhou in a blanket, disdainfully saying, "Jiang is foolish. How could anyone say that about her daughter? Law. If someone else's family had this matter, it wouldn't be too late to hide it. She's better off, and even if there's no trace of it, she'll just put it on her head." She looked down on Jiang's bullying of Lin and said, "It seems like she has an unscrupulous daughter. Law in her family who can be arrogant." She didn't even think about it. When she said this, she not only scolded Lin, but also bravely followed a man with an unattractive face and couldn't control his daughter. Law. What's the use of being so foolish? Sure enough, Jiang Dafu heard her foul language and scolded Jiang severely, "What are you being so careless? Where do you put Xianyong's face when you say that? Do you have any brains? Tomorrow, I will buy 2 pounds of pig brains from the town to make up for it for you." Jiang immediately silenced, like a crow being strangled to death. He said a few words and sneered, "Aren't I angry and confused?" Jiang Xianyong placed Lin on the bed and called out, "Dad," to Jiang Dafu. Jiang Dafu nodded expressionlessly, then looked at Lin Shi with a gloomy gaze and spoke coldly, "Don't let Dia and the others come to inquire about Siya's news. They are still young and can't hide the news. Let people know that our doll has been given to someone. Be careful of your skin." Zhang's drooping head instantly lifted high, with a victorious posture. She raised her foot and let out a sigh of disgust at Lin's companion, announcing to her, "Bigya, you long-tongued girls dare to come and inquire about Siya's news. It's all because of you, the mother, who didn't teach you well. Punish your mother not to have dinner." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 010 Playing Rogue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. 010 Playing Rogue. Lin felt sorry for her daughter and wanted to fight for them, saying, "Mom, it's not possible. Dia and she have to do a lot of work in a day, how can they not eat? At home, there are 2 meals a day, and Lin cannot go down to the ground to give birth. The eldest and youngest children have to do all the household chores, not only cooking, sweeping, washing clothes, cutting pig grass, feeding pigs and chickens, but also loosening the soil, watering, weeding, and pouring manure in the fields. A little corn congee and 2 vegetable dumplings I had drunk in the morning had already been digested. The corn congee was so thin that there was only water left. How can I bear not having supper?" Zhang sneered, "What, if you don't eat a meal, you'll starve to death. Eat and eat, you know how to eat. Your family will be ruined by you. If it weren't for you, the old Jiang family would have become wealthy landlords long ago. One by one, the starving ghosts reincarnated, but I didn't see you guys eat less. The girl eats so much rice, so she doesn't have to go to someone else's house in the future. After getting married, my husband's family will know that you eat too much and will definitely dislike you. Can you still get married in the future?" The big girls immediately looked bitter. No matter how young they are, listening to these words too much will make them sad and disappointed, and they know the meaning of these words and are very afraid that they will not be able to get married in the future. "Mom, we still have dinner to eat. Dia and the others can't eat much." Jiang Xianyong couldn't bear it and cried when he saw Dia and the others. His father's love and maintenance were stirred up. Zhang glanced at Jiang Xianyong and was very dissatisfied with his attitude. First, she protected the Lin family, and now she also protects these girls. She has been doing things right with her, but she just said something very outrageous. She will have to rely on her son for retirement in the future, afraid that Jiang Xianyong will rebound. Zhang decided to save face for her eldest son. She snorted heavily with her garlic nose, but still refused to spare anyone. "Okay, let them eat. Your father is really not considering them at all. You just protect a few losers. See what good you can do. If you die in the future, don't let your son throw a basin for you. Jiang Xianyong chatted up and didn't know how to refute it. Her mother's words were reasonable, and her son was the root of the Jiang family, but she couldn't help but let her daughter eat. The big girls looked at Jiang Xianyong gratefully. Fortunately, their father was here, otherwise they would have gone hungry again tonight. Before, when I was hungry, I could only drink water, but it wasn't enough to fill my stomach. My stomach was growling and it was so uncomfortable that I couldn't sleep at night. Jiang Dafu saw that Zhang was going to scold again and angrily called out, "Hurry up and come with me to the Tofu Xishi family." Upon hearing this, Zhang remembered that there was one more matter to deal with and followed Jiang Dafu outside. As I was walking, I suddenly felt something was wrong. What about her bracelet? When I was about to hit someone, my hand didn't feel right, my hand was a bit empty, and it wasn't painful enough. I also found her silver ear-ring and hairpin specifically for showing off at the Tofu Xishi family, which I found and wore. Zhang looked up and down and touched it all over, then suddenly let out a mournful scream and turned to run home. Where's my silver bracelet? And my silver earrings and hairpin, who stole my jewelry? You Lin, you've been beaten 1,000 times, how dare you steal from me? That's how your mother taught you, and that's how your Lin family teaches. It's really eye-opening. Everyone, come and take a look. My family has really married a good wife. Lin is not virtuous and unworthy at home. She is lazy, and slippery, disrespectful to her in-laws. She cannot give birth to a son herself, not only does she not know how to repent, but also steals her in-laws' jewelry. That's my jewelry, made of 15 taels of silver. At this point, Zhang felt heartbroken and his eyes almost burst into flames as he looked at Lin. Rushing in requires Lin's slaps. Jiang Xianyong stood in front of Lin and stopped Zhang, saying, "Mother, what are you doing? What are you doing to hit someone?" Zhang was so angry that her chest hurt, and her eyes turned black in waves. She wished to peel off the skin and cramp Lin, saying, "What are you doing? She stole all my silver bracelets, hairpins, and earrings. If I don't kill her 3 hands today, I won't be your mother. Xianyong, please make way for me." Jiang Xianyong's tall body was blocking in front, and Zhang couldn't push it away, feeling anxious like something. Lin quickly explained, "Mom, I didn't steal anything. Since giving birth, I've been indoors and don't even know where Mom's belongings are." Zhang hesitated for a moment and didn't want to let Lin go like this. "If you say there's no, then there's no, I want to search." Lin was very sad, and Zhang didn't believe her. If she didn't let her search today, she wouldn't be able to come down and say, "Mom, search. I really didn't take it. After all these years, my husband and mother know who I am, and I won't steal anything." Zhang rushed over without hesitation, rummaging through Lin's body, bed, and cabinet, searching the entire room, hoping to dig 3 feet deep and not find her jewelry. "Tell me, where did you hide my jewelry? Hand it over, or else I'll kill you." Lin met her fierce eyebrows and eyes, trembling and saying, "Mom, I really didn't take it. I swear." Jiang Xianyong saw that his mother was like a raging lion, and he wished he could tear Lin Shi apart. His gaze was so intimidating that he bravely stepped forward and said, "Mom, did you make a mistake? Think about it, where was the last time you wore jewelry?" Zhang glanced at Lin suspiciously, even though she dared not lie. Suddenly a flash of inspiration flashed. Yes, Tofu Xishi. She found all the jewelry just to meet Tofu Xishi, maybe it was lost at Lu Xianglian's place. As the head of the family, wherever you go to the Lu family, you must have fallen where she is. Zhang ran towards the Lu family with great enthusiasm, eager to put on his wings and fly to the Lu family to retrieve her belongings. Jiang Dafu followed behind with a gloomy face, frowning deeply. She was certain that she had fallen into the Lu family's house. Zhang rushed into the Lu family's house and didn't care about anything. He jumped up and asked Lu, have you seen my silver bracelets, silver hairpins, and silver earrings? I wore them when I saw you today. Did they fall out of your house? Take them out. Lu frowned and blinked under her curved eyebrows, saying, no, my aunt didn't leave anything behind when she came. She let go of the doll and left. Zhang jumped 3 feet high and his high-pitched voice echoed through both inside and outside. It's impossible. It's at your house. The jewelry I wore specifically to see you, but it disappeared when I got home. Where is it with you? Lu, are you trying to sneak into my jewelry? I'll tell you, there's no way. Hand over my jewelry as soon as possible. Lu smiled angrily and said, Auntie, you're joking. You're wearing your own thing and it's gone. Who's to blame? That big silver bracelet fell off and you didn't feel it yourself. Don't take off the earrings, your ears don't hurt. If the hairpin falls off, your hair won't be messy. Tell me about you. You don't even know when and where it fell. It's not good if you insist on relying on me. You're so old, you can't wrongly claim to have your teeth pulled out. I have a lot of jewelry, so there's no need to ask for that old thing from you. If you don't believe it, then find the village chief to evaluate and judge. If it doesn't work out, you can still report to the government, and it will always clear my name. Lu didn't want to talk to Zhang, but she couldn't let Zhang play a rogue and slander her recklessly. End of this chapter.